Hello, you're watching New Vision TV News with me, Ruth Nasaji. We look at the top stories. Uganda-Rwanda peace talks kick off in Kigali. Medical students warned against exam malpractice. Ebola scare in Tanzania after doctor succumbs to a related disease. And over 200 people have been arrested over vast forest fires in Indonesia. Outside leaders after divisive Tunisia presidential poll. You're watching New Vision TV News. We broadcast from the New Vision newsroom. We start off with the news around Uganda. A Ugandan delegation led by Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa was in the Rwandan capital, Kigali, attending the first meeting of the joint ad hoc commission set up to help implement the Memorandum of Understanding signed by Rwanda and Uganda in Luanda in August. The meeting is aimed at normalizing relations between the two neighboring countries. After months of high-level political dialogue, President Yoweri Museveni and Paul Kagame signed an MOU on regional cooperation and security, setting the pace for the improvement of political and trade relations between Uganda and Rwanda. According to the pact, the two leaders agreed to respect the sovereignty of Uganda and Rwanda and other neighboring countries. Moving on, Mbarara University of Science and Technology top leaders have warned medical students against indulging in exam malpractice, saying it may lead to their expulsion from the medical profession. The warning was sounded by Professor Nixon Kamkama, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academic affairs, during the second edition of the White Coat Ceremony. The White Coat Ceremony is an induction of all clinical health science professionals into the professional health care. A report from Kamuli District, 6 people were Sunday confirmed dead in an accident which involved a commuter taxi and a boda motorcycle in Nawantumbwe Trading Center on Kamuli Jinja Highway. The driver of the speeding taxi registration number UAZ 861J was overtaking two taxis which had parked to load and offload passengers before it rammed into a coming boda cyclist carrying two passengers. 4 of the occupants in the taxi, one of whom was a breastfeeding mother, died instantly while her baby survived with head injuries. The police spokesperson of Busoga North Region, Michael Kasada, blamed the accident to overspeeding and reckless driving. Some of the bodies of the dead are in Nawanyango Mission Health Center mortuary and others are in Kamuli Hospital mortuary. In Kabalore District, over 500 pastors and evangelists have been commissioned to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ in several parts of Western Uganda after undergoing training in theological studies. The commissioning was officiated by Pastor Dixon Lubega of Kabalore Christian Fellowship on Sunday. Lubega asked the newly commissioned pastors to work for the unity of the people of God by preaching peace and unity. Now, over 30,000 local communities in Kole District who have been drinking contaminated water are filled with excitement after a family in the United States of America donated to them boreholes. In Okelo, Chija Village, Bala Sub-County, at least 270 households have been drinking dirty and contaminated water, according to a report by local leaders. Grace Eyakat, the chairperson LC1 of Okelo Kija Village, said 16 boreholes were handed to the people of Bala Sub-County by the family of Mr. John Foley and his wife, Victoria, Good Samaritans from the United States of America. Eyakat said they have been drinking dirty water with animals from unprotected sources, but this is yet to change. Closing off news around Uganda is a story from Ntungamo District where 10 head of cattle were killed by lightning. Last week, 9 of them belonged to Yosia Kayibandira of Chondosel, Chofara Parish, Kakanera Sub-County. Kayibandira, the owner of the killed cows, said 7 of them were in calf and were giving him milk. This is the third time lightning striking the same area. Early last year, lightning killed 5 head of cattle in the Chondo, while last year it struck at Chofara Health Center too, injuring 4 women who were in a meeting. Let's move on to news around the East African region. In Tanzania, authorities have clarified there has been no Ebola case in the country. This followed fears after a doctor said to have been studying in Uganda had succumbed to Ebola. There were also two other cases, one from Mwanza and the other from Dar es Salaam, suspected of being infected with the deadly virus. But the Minister of Health, Wumi Mwalimu, revealed that the tests for Ebola were done and found negative. Following the rampaging Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo from mid-last year, neighboring countries are on high alert. In Kenya, the Friday drama is still the talk of Makueni County when police arrested 6 beggars. What dramatized the arrest was upon seeing police arrive with the beggars, who all were in wheelchairs, got up and attempted to escape arrest. One jumped on a boda and was carted away. The 6 arrested included 4 women carrying babies. It is reported every morning they were from Tanzania. Now every morning they posed as disabled and in desperate need for assistance. They would arrive in town to beg. Police is keeping them in custody as investigations continue. Closing off news around East Africa is a story from Southeast Sudan. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said the ceasefire between South Sudan government forces and the SPLM in opposition is holding firm. The UN boss's statement comes at a time when other rebels forces in Southeast Sudan are threatening to escalate the conflict if they are not accommodated in the peace deal. Guterres also underscored government forces and SPLM in opposition efforts to contain the rebels, especially those of the National Salvation Front, led by General Thomas Cirillo. He also accused NAS for recruiting across borders in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, from the East African region, but still on the continent, Algeria is to hold a presidential election on December 12th, 5 months into a political vacuum since longtime leader Abdelaziz Bouteflika resigned in the face of mass protests his interim successor announced. This announcement comes after Army Chief General Ahmed Gaid Salah, seen as Algeria's strongman since the fall of the ailing Bouteflika, insisted that polls be held by the end of 2019. Despite ongoing protests demanding the creation of new institutions ahead of any elections. On Friday, Algerian protesters returned to the streets after Parliament passed bills paving the way for the announcement of elections. In Tunisia, political outsider Kais Saied was leading Tunisia's election with just over a quarter of votes counted. The Election Commission said Monday in the country's second free presidential vote since the Arab Spring. Saied was on 19%, leading imprisoned media magnate Nabil Karoul, who was on 14.9%, and ahead of the candidate from the Islamic-inspired Ennahda party, Abdel Fattah Mawar, with 13.1%. The announcement came after both Saied and Karoui's camp claimed to have won through the second round in a highly divisive poll. Indonesia has arrested nearly 200 people over vast forest fires ripping across the archipelago, police said on Monday, as toxic haze sends air quality levels plummeting and sparks flight cancellations. Jakarta has deployed thousands of personnel to battle blazes that are turning land into charred landscapes and consuming forests in Sumatra and Borneo Islands, where thousands of schools have been shut over health fears. Closing off news around the world is a story from the United States. President Donald Trump on Monday promised to supply oil to U.S. allies after attacks on Saudi oil infrastructure that Washington has blamed on Iran. This comes after weekend drone strikes on 2 major oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, which slashed the country's oil production by half and led both the kingdom and the United States to announce they may tap into other strategic reserves. Tehran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, where a Saudi-led coalition is bogged down in a 5-year war, have claimed responsibility. That is it for the news around the world. We now take a short break, but when we come back, we'll take a look at news in business.